During the last couple of weeks, I've been testing the Garmin Instinct 3. This watch is incredibly rugged, boasts the look of a classic outdoor sports watch, and offers many great features, especially an astonishing battery life. Currently priced around $400 to $500, it's considered a mid-range model by Garmin and is significantly more affordable than the Fenix 8 and Duo 3 or Tactics 8. In today's video, as always, we will discuss all of the pros and cons of the Garmin Instinct 3, how it compares to other sports watches, and ultimately who it's the right choice for. So let's get started and have fun. The Garmin Instinct 3 comes in two different variants, each available in two sizes. Historically, Instinct watches always featured a monochrome MIP display, meaning no colors are displayed, just black and white, and the display reflected ambient light, making it particularly bright in sunny outdoor environments. Additionally, this version includes a solar charging lens. This display option continues with the Instinct 3, but now for the first time you can also opt for a colorful AMOLED display, which adds about $50 to the price. Both variants are available in 45mm and 50mm sizes, with the larger option also adding approximately $50. There is also a more basic Instinct E model and more recently a tactical edition of the Instinct 3. However, these will be discussed in a future video and are not the focus here today. I have both the 45mm AMOLED Instinct 3 and the 45mm MIP Solar model. Both have the typical rugged look with a wide bezel that extends beyond the display, providing extra protection. As a result, the display itself is relatively small. The AMOLED model has a 1.3-inch display for the 50mm option, and my 45mm version only has a 1.2-inch display. For comparison, the 47mm Fenix 8 has a 1.4-inch display and the 43mm Fenix 8 still has a 1.3-inch display. However, especially with the MIP Solar model of the Instinct 3, the display remains very minimalistic. Because here it's only 0.9 and 1.1 inches with a resolution of just 176 x 176 pixels. This also reflects the original purpose of the Instinct watches, a minimalist design without unnecessary frills, yet still with all essential Garmin features. Both the AMOLED and MIP models continue to lack a touchscreen and can only be operated via buttons. This is familiar from previous Instinct watches, but for an AMOLED watch, which is now also available, it's somewhat unusual. The smaller display size of the MIP models is also due to the fact that, as mentioned, a solar charging lens is built in, which extends as a ring around the display. Unlike for the Instinct 2, this lens is now black instead of orange or red, so it doesn't stand out but blends seamlessly with the display. Due to the different display sizes, varying amounts of detail can be shown. For example, the AMOLED model can display the next 4 hours of weather data, while the same sized MIP Solar model can only show the next 3 hours. However, the MIP version has the typical Instinct feature of this secondary display in the top right corner, where additional details can be shown. The Instinct 3 is slightly thinner than the Fenix 8 across all variants, but especially it is lighter. Even the heaviest model weighs only about 59 grams, while the Fenix 8 can weigh over 100 grams. The Instinct 3 is mostly made of plastic with only some aluminum, and it doesn't have sapphire glass. So again, no unnecessary frills, very minimalist. My AMOLED Instinct 3 is mostly black with some silver parts like the aluminum ring around the watch. My MIP Solar version has an orange ring and the watch is otherwise blue. At the top of the case there is also a built-in flashlight, which we can set to different brightness levels, including a red light. The flashlight is generally a feature I personally wouldn't want to miss on a sports watch anymore, so I'm glad it's also included here. The AMOLED version now also offers the option to increase the font size. The MIP model doesn't support this, likely due to the lower pixel count. Another difference is that the AMOLED model offers up to 4GB of internal storage, while the MIP Solar model only has 128MB. It's important to note that the Instinct 3, regardless of the variant you choose, doesn't offer music storage or topographic maps, more on that later. A difference from the Fenix 8 is that while the Instinct 3 is also water resistant up to 10 ATM, it doesn't have inductive and fully waterproof buttons. The Fenix 8 is suitable for dives up to 40 meters deep and offers some special diving features, which the Instinct 3 does not have. One thing that has always set Garmin's Instinct watches apart from other watches is their incredible battery life. And once again, at least on paper, the Instinct 3 offers some astonishing figures. The AMOLED version lasts up to 18 or even 24 days in everyday use depending on the size. The MIP model on the other hand offers up to 28 or even 40 days, and under the right solar conditions an unlimited runtime is theoretically possible. Garmin assumes 3 hours of outer use at 50,000 lux per day, which is definitely achievable, especially in summer. In this case, the solar energy provided exceeds the power consumption of the watch, which means it could theoretically last forever. Of course, as always, I tested this myself. To do so, I placed the AMOLED watch on the left and the MIP solar watch on the right out on my balcony and waited. That day was partly sunny and partly cloudy with a temperature of 17 degrees Celsius, so still far from ideal solar conditions. Both watches started with 38% battery. After 1 hour, the AMOLED version still had 38%, while the MIP solar model had increased to 42%. So the watch actually charged by 4% using solar energy in just 1 hour, which means that yes, it could theoretically last forever. In GPS mode with multiband, even the smaller AMOLED Instinct 3 offers up to 23 hours and the larger solar version up to 34 hours or 60 hours with solar. In various battery saving modes like the maximum GPS mode or expedition mode, unlimited runtimes are also theoretically possible with the MIP solar model under suitable solar conditions. Even the AMOLED version can last up to 86 hours or 20 days respectively in these modes. On my own tests, the 45mm AMOLED watch loses 4.29% of battery per hour during an outdoor hike with multiband usage, meaning it could last about 23 hours exactly as specified. The solar version on the other hand loses only 3.43% per hour and would last just under 30 hours. Even while playing football or soccer outdoors, the solar version loses less battery, even though I wore both watches under a long sleeved shirt and it was already dark outside, so the solar energy couldn't really contribute. The same applies to the gym. Even though sunlight plays no role indoors, the battery performance of the MIP solar version is clearly superior to that of the AMOLED model. Based on my calculations, the solar version could even last over 100 hours in this scenario. To conserve battery, I would always recommend you using the Set IQ mode or Auto Select mode. This switches back and forth between multiband GPS and normal GPS depending on how difficult the GPS reception conditions are. This extends the battery life, and later in this video I will also show you how it affects the tracking accuracy. Now that we've talked a lot about the hardware side of things, let's now take a look at the software, specifically the features. And in this regard, the watch is very similar to more expensive Garmin watches like the Fenix 8, for example. Under the health menu, you'll find the key health data for the day. This includes Garmin's typical body battery along with all the factors that influence it, like sleep. There is also a dedicated widget for detailed sleep analysis, including a sleep coach that recommends how long you should sleep the next night. Heart rate, blood oxygen and steps are of course also included. And you can also track HRV status, which refers to heart rate variability. For training, there are widgets like Training Readiness, where you get a breakdown of all the factors that influence your readiness for the next intense training session. The Training Status widget shows your current training load, VO2 max, recovery time and more. However, features like the Hill score, which shows how well you are trained for uphill runs, and the Endurance score, which is essentially a cross-sport VO2 max value, are missing. That said, VO2 max itself can still be calculated. When recording workouts, you can once again log all kinds of data, including advanced metrics like ground contact time, vertical ratio, running power and more. Pace Pro is also included again to help you plan a route and maintain optimal pace. What's missing compared to other Garmin watches are the live stamina metrics, which show your remaining energy during a workout. Also, the watch does not support the running or cycling coach, and the strength training animations are only available on the AMOLED version. That said, the missing features in the areas of sports, fitness and health are relatively minor. However, there is a more significant gap compared to the often mentioned Fenix 8 when it comes to smart features. The Instinct 3 has no microphone or speaker, meaning you can't make calls or use voice assistants. Plus, the watch does have Bluetooth and N+, but no Wi-Fi. In my view, this is understandable considering the watch is primarily designed for outdoor use, because many people in the target audience will probably see smart features like voice assistance as unnecessary or dispensable. However, things look different when it comes to navigation, which is what we'll discuss next. As briefly mentioned in the beginning of the video, the Instinct 3 unfortunately does not offer topographic maps. While you can load routes onto the watch and use navigation, it only supports basic breadcrumb navigation. This is a bit hard to understand for me, since this is supposed to be an outdoor watch and many people of this target audience will probably really like to have maps. Additionally, many other watches in this price range already do offer maps, such as the Coros Pace Pro or the Suunto Race S. Even the Amazfit TX3 offers that for under $300. That watch, by the way, is one of the best in terms of value for money in my opinion, so feel free to check out my review on that one as well. But anyway, back to the Instinct 3. In addition to maps, a few other navigation features commonly found in other Garmin watches are missing as well. For example, there is no up ahead feature, which shows the distance to key waypoints, and the Climb Pro feature for better planning of uphill segments is also not included. You also can't have the watch generate nearby routes, and there are no pre-installed ski or golf course maps either. But how accurate is the GPS tracking on this watch? As mentioned earlier, the high precision multiband GPS is now included, something that was not available in the Instinct 2, but was only added later with the Instinct 2X. However, unlike other Garmin watches, the Instinct 3 still cannot access the Beidou or QZSS GNSS systems. But let's just take a look at how accurate it is. When running through city, forest and residential areas, the watch is very accurate. It doesn't cut corners and tracks my route accurately. This was true whether I used the AMOLED or the MIP version. In this case, I used the Set IQ mode. This test here is particularly interesting. As always, I walked the exact same narrow forest path back and forth so that the outbound and return paths should perfectly overlap. In red and purple you can see the recordings from the AMOLED and MIP watches using GPS only. In blue you see the Set IQ mode, and in green multiband usage. As we can see, there are barely any noticeable differences between these recordings. If you zoom in closely, you can see that the GPS only tracks are slightly less accurate than Set IQ and multiband, but you really need to look very closely to even notice that. And between Set IQ and multiband there is practically no difference at all. So as I mentioned earlier, I would always recommend using the Set IQ mode, even though in my experience the Instinct 3, like most other Garmin watches, is accurate in any setting, even GPS only. In terms of heart rate measurement, the Instinct 3 uses Garmin's 4th generation Elevate sensor, which is now a bit outdated, especially since the Fenix 7 Pro, Epix Pro and even the more affordable Venue 3 are already using the 5th generation sensor. And yes, that 5th gen sensor has already been out for well over a year. The 4th generation hardware as used here doesn't support skin temperature tracking or ECG measurements, for instance. But to what extent does this also affect the accuracy of the heart rate tracking? Here you can see one of my running sessions where I wore both the AMOLED Instinct 3 on my left wrist and the Solar Instinct 3 on my right, along with a chest strap which is shown in red. Overall the results look quite good, though slightly less accurate compared to Garmin watches equipped with the 5th generation sensor. The watches took a few seconds to detect the initial rapid increase in heart rate, and there were some minor fluctuations along the way. But that's really nitpicking. When it comes to running, the sensor of the Instinct 3 is definitely usable. However, during strength training we see much clearer differences compared to the chest strap, regardless of whether it's the AMOLED or Solar version or which wrist the watches were worn on. The average heart rate also differs because of this. Here is another example with clear deviations from the chest strap data. And here is a third session showing the same pattern again, so this isn't just a coincidence. In my experience, the OLED sensor used in the Instinct 3 is simply a bit less accurate than the newer one, so it's quite a shame that Garmin didn't make the upgrade here. Alright, so what's the bottom line with the new Garmin Instinct 3? With the Instinct series in general, Garmin offers an interesting trade-off. You give up certain features found in higher end models, but in return you get even better battery life and a significantly lower price. Personally, I can do without many of these features. I don't need a speaker, microphone or voice assistant on my sports watch. I can live without a touchscreen, and built-in stainless steel or titanium is nice, but not a must-have either. In terms of sport features, the Instinct 3 already includes most of what you'd need anyway. But the fact that the watch still doesn't offer topographic maps is a bit of a disappointment to me, because that's one thing that I personally wouldn't want to go without. If that's not a big deal for you though, then this watch is definitely a great choice. As mentioned before, it offers a huge range of features, it is rugged, and the battery life is absolutely outstanding, especially if you go for the MLP Sonar model. In that case, it might actually be the best Garmin watch of them all in terms of endurance. In the end, as always, it's up to you to decide. Can you live without the missing features of the Instinct 3 and rather prefer a longer lasting, more affordable alternative to watches like the Fenix 8? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the new Garmin Instinct 3. If you found this video helpful or interesting or entertaining or whatever, you could really support me and my work here by giving this video a quick thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any future reviews, you should definitely subscribe to this channel as well. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.